Up and running. Think we are 5. It seems like we are. Yeah, there we go, we are. Cool. Nearly done with Naughty 3 week. Debated it back and forth, but we're doing this one. We sure are doing this one. How is everyone doing? I am apparently choking to death, slowly dying. As you do. Boop 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 boo. Getting all the stuff set up. Hey, AJ, how am I? I'm alright. I wrote a new episode of Accessibility today. I then proceeded to spend a lot of the day having conversations that'll eventually surface. And now my body is betraying me right at the moment that I'm supposed to be hosting a live stream, so that's always fun. Hey Rule Spider, hey Thimba. Thimba says, I was wondering if you were going to cover this. I was unsure if I was going to. Literally, as soon as this ends, I'm recording Control-Alt-Access for this week with the lovely Aravia, and from an accessibility critic perspective, it is important for me to know, because like we're gonna be talking about Summer Games Fest stuff on Control.access this week, and it is important for me to know if Ubisoft does anything as big as they did with the Prince of Persia, the Lost Crown accessibility stuff last year, while also, hey, this is what we always do. We cover this one largely muted, largely not paying attention, largely talking about the abuse stuff that went on for Ubisoft, and the fact that upper management are still there despite the fact that they clearly knew abuse was happening and didn't really do anything to change that fact. So, you know, I always debate it, and I always end up landing on, well, people are going to want to know what Ubisoft's up to regardless, so might as well have a place where they can find that information out, while also, you know, we have conversations about Ubisoft not properly handling abuse allegations. Tara says, oh boy, I'm excited to get hyped for this showcase. I look forward to hearing about new games and not see one politic. I mean, from all accounts, it sounds like we might fucking see Beyond Good and Evil 2 today. So that's, you know, one video game to balance out the probably one... I imagine one politic we'll do today. You know, we'll see one video game and we'll talk one politic. It'll be a balanced scale, I suspect. Hey, Great Goddess Freya. I'm alright. I'm tired. This last, like, 4 or 5 days of Summer Games Fest stuff has been pretty exhausting, but I'm basically done. Focus on me play. Streak indeed. Yeah, the Great Goddess Freya says, I appreciate knowing what games they're making that I'm not going to buy. That's the thing. It is important for me to have some awareness of the things that exist in the games industry from the major players, and from an accessibility perspective, I do need to know what they're talking about, while also going, I'm not like going to buy any of these. A lot of these we're just going to have entirely muted unless I see a subtitle that says accessibility, and then I'll go, okay, you can tell me about accessibility, and then we go back to ignoring you. Breaking news, calculator finally comes to iPad. Okay. This showcase seems designed to hurt you. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of me having to pay just enough attention to know whether they're talking about accessibility, but largely time to talk about harassment. Oh good, there's that sequel to that, my favourite game of all time, but it's nothing like the same genre anymore. I'm depressed to see it. Anyway, more talking about harassment. Can we have some snarky comments about them not doing anything, Let's see. Yeah, don't worry. We're gonna be snarky. We'll find stuff to snark. Well, I mean, I heard the opposite. As far as I've seen, maybe I'm looking in different places on the internet. Um, it's all whiny white American boys that are upset about the Assassin's Creed. Everyone Japanese I've seen talking about it has been like, "Oh, cool! That one Black Samurai we're aware of. That's cool." um, yeah, Focus on Me Play, this is the thing, and I've talked about this before, it's a balancing act. Ubisoft is simultaneously one of the few big budget publishers that reliably makes their video games, like, reliably accessible, and I do have to pay attention to that as someone who cares about the accessibility space, while being a company run by some pretty terrible people, and both of those can be true, and I just kind of have to navigate that as best I can. We got like 3 minutes until this shit kicks off. I will say, again, good that they have audio description and American Sign Language. Those are both good things to offer. Let me get myself a drink. I need some fluid in me. It's a family-owned business. Yeah, that's the problem. The family that owns it is the problem. Them Guillermos. Oh. Michel Ancel definitely didn't do anything wrong. He just decided to stop working on Beyond Good and Evil 2 and go run like just a chicken farm in the woods, completely unrelated to the fact that an external investigation was happening, and he could avoid that external investigation by no longer being an employee. Pure coincidence. That project that he's been trying to make happen for fucking decades finally gets greenlit, and then he quits the company rather than finish making it to go run a chicken farm, definitely unconnected to the fact that they would have found stuff about him if he stayed. My understanding is American Sign Language is the only one they offer. They don't have British Sign Language. And like you could have more sign languages. That would be good. They have American Sign Language. I believe that is their only sign language. They have audio description. So Ubisoft still not doing as many adapted showcase variants as we are with the BSL as well, but they're doing better than others in that regard. The pre-show will start soon. Oh, is the actual show not starting now? Oh. Of course they don't have BSL, they're French. Yeah, but they're not American either, they're French. I thought it was starting now, okay. Okay, I gotta work out what my fucking schedule for today is then. Fun. 9 PM is the starting point of the show. Wait. When you say 9 PM, you don't mean 9 PM UK. You mean presumably 8 PM UK. In 30 minutes the pre-show starts, right? Or I mean the actual show starts, I guess. This is complicated. Okay. Tired. Okay, yeah, 8 PM for me. Okay. So sorry, I saw 9 PM and I was like, oh, do I have to shuffle around my fucking schedule? AJ, I'm well aware that Game is stopping selling pre-owned games. They're also stopping having standalone stores or having a reward card or basically anything anymore. Game is dying, and that has been clear for a while. The pre-show is about to start. Well, I'm gonna put the pre-show on mute, and we're gonna just talk about the fact that Ubisoft is. Do I even bother with this fucking showcase? Would anyone judge me if I just fucking bail? I know I said I would do this one, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm tired. My cynicism has hit its peak, and there's part of me that's like, I don't know if I got this one in me today. We'll see. We'll give it a minute. If it was starting now, I'd have done it. Now I'm like, oh, can I be asked to wait around half an hour to do this? Oh, one sec. Oh, everything's falling over in my fucking office. It's all gone to shit. Ah. I'll stick around. I'll do it. We'll survive. We'll do this together. It's not even sleepy, Laura. It's physically and emotionally exhausted, Laura. Yesterday, in particular, was a long day for me. Yesterday was a day of many emotions, and I'm like, I don't know how much I got left in the tank today, but we'll. Okay, so this would be like 8 till 9 ish. Does anyone know how? Is this an hour long? Do we know how long? Have they said the length of this anywhere? Like when this will finish? I'm assuming under an hour. So that'd be like 8 till 9 UK, which would be 10 in Norway. All right. Two hours? Really? 2 fucking hours? Okay, well I can't do the whole of this then. I would if not for the fact that I've got control or access to record tonight. Usually we record on a Tuesday, but hey Revia. Um I tuned in to react to the Ubisoft thing to find out about accessibility stuff because I thought it was starting like 4 minutes ago. It's not starting for another 25 minutes, and then I was like, oh, it'll only be like an hour, presumably. Apparently, let's have a look. The 30-minute pre-show. Um, did they say? Yeah. Ubisoft Forward often streams for around 2 hours. If they don't talk accessibility in the first hour, then I bail because yeah, we were just talking. Me and Revy will be recording Control Alt Access tonight, and I was like, yeah, well, it would be good to know before we record Control Alt Access if Ubisoft talks accessibility today. But if they're gonna take 2 hours, that's on them. That's too long for one publisher this far into the week to try and get me to pay attention. 2 hours including pre and post show, so the actual thing may only be an hour. Oh, okay. Yeah, so it will be finished by 9 UK 10 Norwegian time. Cool. Then in that case, we can probably find out if Ubisoft did accessibility today or not. Because I don't know if anyone's actually mentioned accessibility in their showcase things. Over Summer Games Fest this time. There was one game in the Wholesome Showcase that has since talked about their accessibility. I can't remember if they talked about them in Wholesome itself or just afterwards. Call of Duty kind of did. Call of Duty talked about gameplay assists. They very briefly talked about, like, you can vault over things and climb things without having to press a button. You can, like, automate a lot of the traversal things to reduce the number of inputs required. They were very light on details, but they very lightly talked about some assist features. They didn't use the word accessibility, but they got pretty close. Fakis says at least this won't be as painful as the PC gaming show. Yeah, will it not? I don't know. I'm glad this is the last one, with the exception of I am excited for tomorrow. We're seeing that 15 minutes of Dragon Age footage. That being said, they have shown like 50 seconds of Dragon Age footage today. I think because if you need to push it to 10:30, it's no time. Worry for you. Cool. I appreciate that, Arevia. We'll see. I would like to find out whether Ubisoft bothers to talk accessibility, but it depends how much they drag it out. But yes, I know some people weren't particularly happy with the Dragon Age trailer that was shown yesterday because of, like, oh, they're being too comedic and I don't like the art style. Apparently, I guess BioWare were like, we see your concerns and we want to reassure you, and they put like 2 minutes of Dragon Age gameplay up, and it's like, oh, the art style is different and it's not as wacky. Which hopefully is going to reassure people. I don't know if people have... shall I see if I can find that and put it up on screen for anyone who's not seen it? I think it was pretty... It was fairly reassuring. Give me a sec. Yeah, that's the thing. Revia, when I suggested, like, controller access recording time, it was mainly because I was like, well, you know, I could record controller access and still be done in time for my usual stream time in the evening. But then I realized, like, no, I've streamed, like, 14 hours in 3 days. I don't need to do a stream after controller access. I think I can just go to bed after that. Let me find that Dragon Age footage while Ubisoft are very slowly getting ready to do things. Let me swap over to the camera for just a second while I make this big on the screen. And I can come back around.
She's the best damn detective I've ever met. If she says she's got a lead on Solus, I believe her.
Should we be in more of a hurry to get out of here?
We don't want to look conspicuous. Just get out of here nice and casual. Find Nev Gallus and stop Solus. She's the best damn detective.
It's not much, granted, but I think it's a lot more what people were hoping to see out of Dragon Age. I think people are going to be a little happier seeing Dragon Age tomorrow than some of them were seeing it yesterday. But yeah, it's like, no, for anyone who's not followed Dragon Age for a long time, they've done this routinely. The first trailer for a new Dragon Age tends to be a bit tonally and artistically different from the first gameplay shown. It's just, oh yeah, no, Harding, I believe, is confirmed one of the 7 party members. Like, all the ones that had, like, a name flash up during that trailer yesterday were all the 7 party members. Atalis Alankil, I thought Ubisoft was now, but it's half an hour from now, but maybe it's 2 hours long, but maybe that 2 hours is half an hour pre-show, an hour, then half an hour post-show. Ubisoft have not communicated the length of their showcase well. You know what else they haven't communicated well? The steps they're taking to ensure that workers feel safe within their studio after reports of workplace harassment were pretty commonplace, and a year after those harassment reports were made, an independent survey of Ubisoft employees found that the majority of them felt like nothing had changed and they did not feel any safer in their job role. That's a thing they haven't communicated great about. But, Look at me making a segue between points. Let me turn my brightness up. It's getting evening. And did they confirm if the Dragon Age 4 partners will have individual sexualities like in Inquisition or be player sexual? I have seen one official statement about 3 days ago, which I believe either said or implied that they would all be player sexual. I don't know how accurate that is. I know that the one public statement I have seen sounded like it was going to be player sexual, like Dragon Age 2, I think was. We'll have to wait for more info to know. Fakis says, as a bi person, I wish they were all just bi. I get that impulse. I like when characters have defined... My personal preference is I like when characters have defined sexualities, even if that means that characters I wish I could romance in BioWare games aren't romanceable for me. The fact that as FemShep, Jack was just not a romance option will forever baffle me. If any character should have been into women love women relationships, it felt like it should have been Jack. But again, I respect that sometimes you can be very into a character who you would assume would be into you, and they're just not. And I think that is, in some ways, more meaningful than everyone will fuck you no matter who you are. But again, that's my personal preference. Boop-a-da-boo. Yeah, that's the thing. If you give a character a specific sexual orientation as opposed to just player sexual, it means that you can write that sexuality can be a factor in how you write them. Whereas, if they're going to be player sexual, there has to be a degree to which they are written to believably, like, someone could believe they were straight or could believe they were gay. And that shouldn't mean that you write them any differently. But a lot of writing teams at a lot of places will write differently if they're writing to be ambiguous, as opposed to toward a specific sexual orientation. Fakis says, I wish they'd include an aromantic person or asexual person if they did that, though. Have they not done so? I feel like they must have at some point done so. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. I guess anyone who isn't romanceable is a hero by default. I mean, I would like to see more games have characters where you would how do I put this? Where you have the kind of, I would like to grow this relationship into a closer relationship with you, with the character, while they're not being romanceable or sexually pursuable. Like, a character with whom you can have that conversation of, like, that's just not a thing I'm into, but I would love to have a closer friendship with you, and to have something as well written as a good romance path, but as a good deep friendship relationship path, I think I think would be lovely, and I think is specifically uniquely different to that character just isn't romanceable. I think there is a distinction, like Deucer in Hades, yeah, a path that is explicitly written where you get the same amount of depth and relationship building and closeness as a relationship path, whether or not that is the actual flavor of it. But yeah. I'll be honest, even when some BioWare games have been like a little hit and miss here and there for me, I always enjoy the characters. I don't know that there's been a BioWare game I've played where I didn't come away with at least a couple of characters going, oh, that one was good. Oh, I'll be talking about that one being my fave for a while. Um, Atlas Alankil says, yeah, it's kind of a shame to have the Aero Ace character be the non-humanoid one. Yeah, I get that as well. It's it's with a lot of things. It's like, this piece of media has a non-binary representation, but they're an alien or a robot. And you're like, oh, well, here is this kind of. There are certain bits of representation that come hand in hand with being represented in certain ways that you sometimes go like, yeah, but can I have that just generally? Oh, Anthem. I'll be honest. Anthem doesn't register as being a BioWare game in my head. It gets erased from the equation. Ubisoft also enabled drops on your channel. I guess lore is a big deal. I didn't give them permission to do that, but apparently I said the word Ubisoft, so now Ubisoft doing drops in the chat. Ubisoft, get out of here. I didn't welcome you into my chat. This is my chat, not yours. Off you go. Shoo. Yeah, I'm curious when Dragon Age is going to release. Because what did they say? They said, they didn't say late 2024, did they? They said, did it say, like, fall or autumn? I think they said fall was the American term. Which, to me, like, December is winter, to me. So, like, I have no insider info here, but, like, I think, like, September or October would be fantastic. Would be earlier than I was anticipating. I genuinely didn't. I thought we would be, like, early 2025. Sorry, yeah, like, November. November, I think, is reasonable. Like, October, November. September is, like, wish fulfillment territory. November is, like, I think that's the latest they're probably aiming for. I don't know if we get a release date tomorrow, but it would be nice to get a release date. To be like, I think that's why they're waiting for to do the release date. They don't want to do it with the CGI trailer. They want to go, here's 15 minutes of game. Didn't that look fucking cool? Here's the date. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like they want it before the holiday season. Like, I think if they were smart, they'd want it out before, like, before Black Friday is, like, the big push you want to hit for. Because I don't know what else. Because BioWare is under EA. I don't know what else EA has got that would be their big. Would be their big Black Friday game. The Sims, is there a new Sims coming out, or I guess a new expansion? Polyamory in Dragon Age would be cool. I don't think it would happen. You never know. What was it? I've played very few games that have had polyamory, like, openly supported. Weirdly, the first one I remember was Later Daters, which is the dating sim set in an old folks' home. That game had a pretty open attitude to polyamory because all these old people like, I'm too fucking old to care. Yeah, you want to be dating me and dating them? More happiness to you. And I was like, fuck yeah. Project Rene. It's something The Simsy. I mean, Rule Spider, I don't think Dragon Age and Baldur's Gate 3 are that similar. Baldur's Gate 3 is very long, turn-takey, oh, you fucked up a thing, like, 60 hours ago, you fucked, here's your big dungeon. Like, it's way more TTRPG, and that is to some people's taste and not to others. I think a BioWare RPG is always going to be more there is a little bit of a linear hand along those choices, and a little more protecting you from fucking yourself up in a way that is a lot more approachable, I would say. Like, Baldur's Gate 3 is a masterpiece, but it is not an approachable masterpiece in the way that, like, BioWare or Mass Effect tends to be. There are some things you trade off, but you get some approachability for it. Yeah, like, they're both medieval fantasy-ish setting, story-focused RPGs with dating party member mechanics, but, like, I don't think they're appealing to the same people. Dragon Age Origins was the Baldur's Gate 1 nostalgia trip. Yeah, but Dragon Age as a series has definitely, as with all of BioWare's RPGs, have definitely skewed away from that. Like, Dragon Age Origins is definitely not like the template. I wouldn't say that, like, Dragon Age as a series has stayed that. Yeah. I mean, they're similar in concept, again, in that they're fantasy party building RPGs with cutscenes and player choice. Like, I've seen a lot of people who like one and try and pick up the other and just not gel with them. I don't think there's... I think there is a lot of overlap, but I don't think it's complete market overlap in that sort of way. No, I have not seen this. I'll read it quick, Thimba. Thimba says, did anyone catch this early this year? Fraser Blacksand, the voice actor behind Baldur's Gate 3's beloved tiefling blacksmith Dammon, is facing criticism after players noticed him following a number of controversial Twitter accounts, liking tweets that promote homophobia, sexism, transphobia, and other bigoted views, and expressing apparently unwavering support for the IDF's actions in Palestine, which have killed tens of thousands of people. Did not catch that. Cool. Cool, love that. I mean, AJ, it's fair to note that it sounds like that game has been through a very long development roadmap, and historically, I don't blame anyone who worries about Dragon Age because of that roadmap, because, well, games that spend that long in development, they either turn out great or they turn out to have held on to vestiges of what they were, and we'll have to wait and see. Like, it's much like, say, something like Metroid Prime 4. We're just gonna have to wait and see whether long time in development means good or means concern. Okay, like 6 minutes until we waffle about Ubisoft. Hey everyone, do you have a favorite fact about Ubisoft and their not properly addressing and handling abusive work practices in the games industry? If so, share it in chat. Maybe Laura will read it out while bicycles happen. I'm gonna pour myself a drink quickly. Look, I am excited for Dragon Age, and I say this as someone who, I think Mass Effect Andromeda is a real fucking neat game. It is not the game anyone was expecting, and I fell off it the first time I tried to play it. I was like, this is not what I wanted out of Mass Effect, but having come back to it with, like, knowing what to anticipate and what to expect, I think there is a really great game in there. I think that it is a game that didn't market itself well, and that fell into some pitfalls that were maybe not advisable, but I think, like, I don't think it's the terrible game that it is still sort of pointed to as. I like a lot of BioWare's single player stuff, and I want to believe that I am in for a good time. Uh... Saint Nobody says, I was watching the Apple live stream earlier, and when a Ubisoft executive showed up, I momentarily thought it was weird you didn't mute the stream to talk about how shitty Ubisoft is, because I forgot I wasn't watching one of your streams. Well, I mean, you're here now. You're back in a safe zone where occasionally we will listen to conversations about accessibility. I'll say this. If they put on a Beyond Good and Evil trailer, I'll probably put the audio back on, because I am fascinated about whatever the hell the decisions they're making about that game are. I'm morbidly curious. But most of it, we will be here going, ooh, Ubisoft sure exists. But yes, if you want to share your favorite Ubisoft needs to do better stories, get them rolling in, and I'll be here ready for you. Being tired. I might not be as high energy as I have been previous years when we've done this stream. I'm running on empty. I'm plugging away as best I can. Yeah. Everything they showed... God, was it like 2017 they last showed Beyond Good and Evil? How long is the show? Maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. Maybe that 2 hours includes the 30-minute pre-show and the 30-minute post-show, in which case an hour. We're unsure. But yeah, oh god, it must have been 2017, because it was a year I was at E3. Everything they've shown since trying to reboot Beyond Good and Evil has just been like, oh, this is like a new IP you painted Beyond Good and Evil onto. This is not the thing that people spent a decade clamoring for you to make a sequel to. Oh, interesting. Roll Spider says, can we talk about the fact that the Just Dance French champion lady still wants to participate in Just Dance competitions, but not ones that are organised by Ubisoft, because they didn't listen to her advice for which version to use to make the competition fair and interesting. They picked the Switch version, and with the number of Joy-Cons involved, the Joy-Cons kept disconnecting midway through songs. What? Ubisoft not listening to criticism and doing anything to act upon it? Oh, I'm shocked and surprised. Could it have been 2018? Could have been 2018, I guess. 6 years ago. I don't know. I forget. It's been a while since Beyond Good and Evil's done anything. Ubisoft released 2 different trailers for the same piece of vaporware. I mean, there was that trailer back in, what was it, 2006, that was like, oh yes, standard linear single-player sequel to Beyond Good and Evil. And then some gameplay leaked, and it's like, yep, single-player third-person action adventure. And then a decade later, what if Jade and Paige weren't Jade and Paige? They were clones of those characters, and you were playing as clones of everyone from the first game in a new universe, clones shipped across the galaxy, so they'll look like the characters you know, but not act like them, or know about the events of the first one. And it's an open world, procedurally generate thousands of planets, loot shoot RPG. Like, but that's not Beyond Good and Evil though, is it? It was a prequel supposedly, but Jade still turned up as a villain and shit. It was so confusing. Yeah, no, because it wasn't Jade. It was a clone. This is a canon thing they talked about. Every character you saw in that trailer who looked like a character you know isn't that character. They are a literal clone of them. Because, like, you could play... Like, they talked about the fact you can play Beyond Good and Evil 2 looking like Jade, but you won't be Jade, you'll be a skin clone of Jade. Let me find this. I'm sure I remember them saying this. Beyond Good and Evil 2 clone. Okay, yeah. I found it. Give me a sec. Blah, blah, blah. Where's the bit about the clones? I saw it on the preview for this. Everyone in System 3 is a clone. I saw that in the little preview. Where in this page is it? Okay. It was explained that in the game, everyone in System 3 is a clone, while hybrids are made by crossing the DNA of humans and animals. Some of these hybrids are used as slaves in the mining and collecting of a valuable and dangerous mineral called Diwalite. Yeah, no further info. Just, they're all clones. It'll be a prequel with a younger Jade as the antagonist, but not the younger Jade, a clone. That will cover the origin of the human-animal hybrids. You can play cooperatively in an open world. You can move from city streets to the sky to outer space without a single loading screen. Every building will be fully destructible. Every planet will be procedurally generated. Hundreds of huge, real size and scale planets. Yeah, Beyond Good and Evil 2 doesn't sound like an actual video game. There's nothing about that sounds like video game we will actually make. Do I have subtitles turned on for this stream? Are we seeing subtitles? I should be keeping an eye out for accessibility stuff. I know Star Wars Outlaws. I know they have, like, they did in a press release prior to this. They did talk about accessibility stuff in this. I don't remember what the accessibility stuff was, but they did announce accessibility things. Yeah, I'm curious if they'll show any of this off. I believe this has support for high contrast mode, which is, like, that's cool. I'm glad that Ubisoft's getting on top of that, that as a standard. Okay, let me do our first round of Ubisoft abuse allegations. We're just gonna search the words Ubisoft abuse, pull up the first link, because this is what we do during the Ubisoft conference. Let's open Bloomberg UK. Former Assassin's Creed studio executives face sexual harassment trial in France. This was back in January, so in 2024, Ubisoft executives were, like, literally, like, 4 or 5 months ago, Ubisoft executives were on trial for sexual harassment. Francois Hascoët has been accused of making crude sexual remarks. Oh, it's Bloomberg. I can't read the rest of the piece. Let's have a look at The Verge's coverage. Tommy Francois, Serge Hascoët were at the center of several allegations of sexual harassment back in 2020. According to French newspaper Libération, 5 ex-Ubisoft employees have been arrested in connection with sexual harassment investigation by French police. In 2021, French police received complaints from the Solidaires Informatiques Union, a French union that serves digital consulting and video game workers, and as well as 2 other individuals. After more than a year of investigation involving extensive interviews with around 50 current and former Ubisoft employees, the arrest was carried out over October 3rd and 4th. Of the 5 individuals arrested, only 2 have been named. Former Chief Creative Officer Serge Hascoët and Editorial Vice President Tommy Francois. They were some of a number of employees forced out of Ubisoft in 2020 after numerous current and former employees came forward sharing stories of sexual abuse and harassment they suffered at the company. Amidst the personal stories, employees also alleged that Ubisoft knew about, and in some cases protected, the men accused of misconduct because of their high-profile status within the company or personal connections to Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot. A 2020 internal Ubisoft survey revealed that 25% of employees experienced workplace misconduct. A letter from the company, published shortly after the allegations surfaced, apologized to those affected and promised to implement changes to better protect employees. In the Liberation report, victim's lawyer Maud Beckers said, "The case is very particular because beyond simple individual behaviour, it is a case involving systematic sexual violence and a lack of accountability from the executives." So, yeah, there's your first reminder of how Ubisoft's been. Does anyone else have any favourite little factoids about Ubisoft they want to share? I'm happy to give you all your moment of spotlight as I tell everyone your favourite thing about Ubisoft right now. Honestly, yeah, the problem does seem to be the Guillemot family being in charge. It seems pretty clear that Yves Guillemot knew what was going on. Also, like, nepotism up the wazoo in terms of, like, the executives and the board being, like, just all of Guillemot's cousins. All of his cousins are just the rest of the board. Like, you'll notice lots of people were let go during the investigation. None of the Guillemot family. None of them obviously had to leave. Oh yeah, I remember that. Ubisoft put out a mobile game in which the bad guys used the black raised fist as the villain, as the symbol of the villains, and then had to walk that back quite dramatically. The raised fist symbol that had been used by Black Lives Matter being used for an enemy faction in a mobile game. That wasn't great. How about the fails on making a shitty Division mobile game? Was that the Division mobile game that did the fist? That might well have been. Have we got sound for the video? We're not putting sound on for the video just because it's the Ubisoft. If this is your first year for the Ubisoft one, AJ, we'll turn the sound on occasionally when it's relevant, but generally speaking, we mute the Ubisoft conference and we just talk about Ubisoft's unfixed problems with abusive workplace harassment while I watch for any mention of accessibility. Like, if you want to just watch the Ubisoft trailers, this is not the place to come for it. This is our one in the year where we're like, I'll technically do the reaction stream, but yeah. Yeah, there were some questionable things about at least one of those fucking South Park games. Cool, AJ. Yeah, you know what this stream is. This stream is what it is. Oh, interesting. Raw Spider says, as an additional nugget of drama, this year's report of the arm of the CNC in charge of video game creation subsidies, it's estimated that 48% of France's mid-sized to small-sized indie studios have been founded by by women and queer employees, ex-employees of Ubisoft in both Grenoble, Paris, Lille, and Lyon. Illithid says, as a Singaporean, I'm disgusted by how the French-Canadian expats treated local staff. Doesn't surprise me to hear that. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, let me find the one I'm looking for. Because people ask me, why am I still going on about Ubisoft like this, years onwards? Ubisoft, nothing changed survey. Let me Google those words and see if I find... yeah, let's read from IGN here in 2021. So this was a year after the big harassment reports. After toxic workplace harassment allegations, Ubisoft employees reportedly say nothing has changed. And I've spoken to Ubisoft employees who've said similar to me that, like, nothing really changed when that report happened. They fired a few high-profile people, but they didn't fix the structural things going on, so new people just kind of became the problem. Let's see. Let me find the specifics here. A new report indicates that very little has changed within the company. This is from French publication Le Telegram. It states that as the first wave of legal proceedings brought by workers' union Solidaires Informatiques Jeux Vidéo began, Ubisoft has done minimal work to improve its culture. For one, many of those accused still have jobs at the company, such as Nadeo studio lead Florent Klasnerac, about whom Solidaires published 10 testimonials related to bullying and abusive behavior toward employees. Castelnerac is still in the Nadeo managing director, according to the studio's official website. Another person remaining, despite allegations, is former Singapore studio lead Hughes Ricoeur, who Kotaku reported was taken down from his role following an audit in the wake of allegations. His LinkedIn profile indicates he did not leave his role in Singapore until February, 3 months after the Kotaku report. And he's now working as a production intelligence director at Ubisoft's Paris headquarters. Just shuffled him around to somewhere else. There's also reports that nothing has changed at Ubisoft in Canada under new studio head Christophe Derenz, who replaced Yanis Malat after the latter left the company in the wake of the allegations. Reportedly, there have since been new harassment cases submitted that were sidelined in December of the previous year. This is all in spite of multiple public-facing allegations that Ubisoft has taken an effort to respond to the allegations, such as replacing their former HR director, etc. Reportedly, very little has fundamentally changed. They put in a new code of conduct. It seems like it didn't make a difference. There you go. There's some reporting. There's other reports that say similarly, and anecdotally I've spoken to Ubisoft people who have said similarly. Basically boils down to, yeah, they put new rules in place, but no one followed them, and they got rid of the people who did the bad things, but they didn't get rid of, like, the people above them, so new people started doing bad stuff, and the people above them let them get away with it like they did the old people, and it just kind of regurgitated. Yeah, so there you go. Was that a high contrast mode for a second? Did we... No, I thought we saw a high contrast for a second, maybe. That would have been one thing to point at. Did they fire the HR director for not keeping it all quiet? I mean, I'll say this. Generally, as a rule of thumb, HR are not there in a company to protect you. They are there to protect management. They are there to be a barrier that tries to talk you down into compromise. Nadeo is the Trapmania game studio, you know, the happy-go-lucky online arcade racer games that have a community full of queer players, but nope, got a sexist and queerphobic to the creators of online arcade racer that gets them queer money. Nothing will fundamentally change became the arc theme of this current era, right? That's what I worry. I was saying about this the other day. It's why I'm worried about supporting Deck 9 and getting excited about the new Life is Strange, is that publicly we had one very corporate statement and nothing that, like, practically or tactilely suggests they've done anything to actually improve or even acknowledge fundamentally how deep the rot went. You know... It is what it is. It really feels like companies, no matter how big the story of abuse turns out to be, they can just go, we're better now, and people will just go, okay, well, they said they're better now. Oh. There we go. There's round one of Ubisoft discussion. That's 15 minutes. Maybe 3 more big old Ubisoft discussions and we'll be done. Until a CEO actually murders an employee, we won't see action. I mean, even then I'm dubious we would see action. You know that Bobby Kotick, I know he's not Ubisoft, but you know Bobby Kotick threatened to have an assistant killed? And then he remained the CEO of that company for a further 20 years. Apparently, threatening to have an assistant killed was not enough to, in any way, even vaguely shake his employability. I'm not convinced a CEO couldn't do a murder of a secretary and just have no consequences. Like, Laura, that's just a heated gamer moment. Oh, those CEOs and their heated gamer moments. No, Talis Alankel, surprisingly enough, assistants are not there for you to threaten to murder. Yeah, Bobby was interested in buying TikTok, but I think it was a Elon Musk-esque. I wanna throw it out there, but I don't actually want to do it. Uh, Okay, let's have a look at a story from further on, a little further beyond the harassment stuff. This is reading from gamesindustry.biz. A group of Ubisoft employees campaigning for greater change at the Assassin's Creed publisher has criticized the company's weak response to its demands. The A Better Ubisoft group called for offenders, first signalled in the wave of abuse allegations, to be removed from the company, as well as those who were complicit or willfully ignorant of their actions. They wanted to collaborate on a set of rules and processes for handling reports of abuse, harassment, and other offences that must heavily involve employees in non-management positions and union representatives. The group reported that Ubisoft's chief people officer, Anika Grant, responded to each key demand during a recent internal presentation. There were some welcome acknowledgements in the presentation of management failures in both the consistency of the complaints process and lack of communication with some of the whistleblowers and witnesses. Beyond that, however, there was no new information nor any steps to actually improve towards meeting our demands. It was platitudes. They didn't intend to fix anything. It's now been 16 months since those allegations emerged. At the point of this article, the ABK many of our demands are simple and can be addressed through basic actions incredibly swiftly, but Ubisoft seems intent on doing nothing but acknowledging them and not actually doing anything to change them. They're saying the right things, they're saying they're listening, they're not actually meeting any of our demands. Ubisoft offer nothing more than assurances that all investigations are impartial, all sanctions are appropriate, and the victims and witnesses are protected, while offering no evidence, no involvement or oversight in any part of the process. Ubisoft's workforce still has very few minority workers. They worry that any concerns raised via the survey will be buried by people who are unlikely to face harassment, discrimination, or abuse. Only when you listen to the victims and fully address our concerns will we finally build a better Ubisoft. And a better Ubisoft are still very much of the opinion that Ubisoft has not fundamentally changed. So yeah, there you go. Ooh. Alice Alankill says, silly managers, they don't realise they had to listen and then do something about what they listened to. I mean, they realise that, they just don't wanna. It's okay, we've got a game with a silly little creature with big eyes. You like that silly little Star Wars friend, don't you? Don't worry about the crunch. No worrying about crunch. Or harassment. We've got a Star Wars. Can you tell I'm tired? I'm run down. I'm running on empty. We're a third of the way in, maybe. Star Wars, it's a war in the stars. You know where else there is a war? Inside of Ubisoft, between the underrepresented and undersupported workers and the overpaid executive class. That's where there is a war happening. Not everyone is being treated as a star. The people who make the games, they are stars. The people who are overseeing the company, not so much. Talazalanko says, you know where there isn't a war? In Palestine, because that's a genocide, not a war. Exactly. Yeah. In a situation where one side of a conflict controls the ability to enter, the ability to leave, the flow of water, the flow of power, and can bomb entire regions going, well, we were trying to kill a villain, so we had to kill a whole bunch of you civilians. Yeah, that is not a war. That is not a war. Today's war in the stars is a class war. Well, yeah. Incompetent Hero says, not sure if anyone else noticed it, but watching the VOD, I found it funny that the entire Deck 9 Nazi conversation yesterday happened over top of footage of Indiana Jones and the Nazis. It wasn't intentional, but we sure were talking about there being a problem with Nazis infiltrating spaces, while Indiana Jones was like, yeah, we gotta root out those Nazis. Yeah. It occurred to me in the moment, and I didn't verbalize it because I was too busy being pissed off and upset about the whole situation around Deck 9. Also, I didn't realize how many people didn't know that Deck 9 story happened. I did a tweet yesterday just going, I'm really depressed that I can't be happier about Life is Strange, you know, after all the Nazi shit. And I had like a bunch of people tweeting me back going, wait, what went down? And I posted a link and a whole bunch of people were like, well, yeah, I did not hear about that. And I'm like, well, now you have. Fun. Too busy being responsibly ethical to joke around. I was busy being upset about the presence of Nazis, because that's the correct response to have to Nazi shit. If someone comes and informs you that, like, a game studio contains some Nazis, the correct thing to do is to, like, go, nothing else is capturing my attention right now. I'm frustrated and need to do something about the fact that Nazis got in. But apparently, the problem is that Deck 9 did not respond the way I did to the knowledge of Nazis at Deck 9, which was, fuck. Nothing other than the existence of Nazis at Deck 9 really matters right now until we solve that problem. That's the other reason I keep talking about shit like the Ubisoft thing. Every year that I do this Summer Games Fest stream, every year that I do this, there will inevitably be someone in one of the chats, like YouTube or Twitch, who will respond going, I didn't know that there was a problem with Ubisoft. I'm like, oh. I mean, it was like 4 years ago, but like, yeah, here's some reading you can do. Have fun. They had problems. Incompetent Hero, I've seen people make that joke. I ain't making it, but I sure have seen people do it. Oh, new sea monster. You know what other kind of new monster there is? The monsters who keep being bad at Ubisoft. Let's Google Ubisoft controversy. Let's just search the words Ubisoft controversy and see. Oh, this is fun. This isn't about the executive level people being terrible, but this is a story from this year that makes me not want to support Ubisoft. Ubisoft executive says players should feel comfortable with not owning their games anymore. Do you remember this story from just a couple of months ago? Ubisoft's director of subscriptions, Philippe Tremblay, stirred up controversy after suggesting that gamers should feel more comfortable with not owning their games. In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz, he outlined the company's plan to cater more flexibly to gamers' demands, blah blah blah, streaming plans, blah blah blah, streaming plans. One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, and we will make sure they grow comfortable in that aspect, you won't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your save file will still be there. That's not been deleted. You don't lose what you've done in the game or your engagement with it. It's just about making sure that you feel comfortable with not owning your game. The people who make games do not care about them as art, because if they cared about them as art, they would want them to be sustainable and to be, like, a thing that people can access. They would want them to be archivable. They would care about people being able to access them years down the line, and they don't. One sec. AJ, I'm aware of the Ubisoft rewards thing. I have no control over it. I didn't. Also, they just had a fucking streamer on stream whose entire streaming brand identity was a joke that Donald Trump made. So that's cool. That's cool. Who's messaging me now? There we go. Yeah. So many video game publishers, like at the executive level, do not see video games as art, as pieces of art being created with long-term value that deserve to be preserved. They see them as products to be replaced, because if you can keep your piece of art forever and treat it like art, you might not feel the all-consuming urge to replace it with the next piece of art. They want you to constantly be craving new, because they don't want you to think of what you already own as still having value. They want it to be a transitive experience that you play once and never come back to. Oh, Saint Nobody, it's an easy one. Covfefe. It was Trump once tweeted just the word Covfefe. No idea what the context was, but he made it a running joke for a while. So yeah, Trump tweeted a word that was a nonsense word, and apparently one of those streamers was like, yeah, Trump's word he invented is my stream name now. I'm like, nah, maybe it's innocent. I wouldn't trust a streamer who picked a random Donald Trump unique word to be their brand identity. I would assume fairly fucking right-wing to do that, probably. Oh. Why do you want a chocolate bar? Hershey's did it 100 years ago. Yeah, by chocolate bar the 30th sequel. We reinvented it again. I mean, look, yeah, a lot of like liberals made fun of the Covfefe thing, but I think there's a difference between making jokes about it and going, I'm going to make a career where my name is Covfefe. Like, it feels like maybe there's other reasonings to it, but my gut sees that and goes, you want people to think of Trump every time they see your username, and that feels just a bit iffy to me. I think there is a difference between using a turn of phrase and I want the first thing people see and associate with me to be a Trump word. Oh, that Sands of Time remake is still in the works, but has been pushed back to 2026. When did they fucking announce that shit? Sands of Time remake announced. How long ago was that now? 4 years ago. So it's going to be at least 6 years of development for a remake of an old game. Not a good sign for that game's development. Oh, I breathed in drink. That's not good. Yeah, Talos Alankill, the Sands of Time remake has been announced for as long as the abuse allegations have been out. Well, slightly longer. I believe it was August of 2020 that the Ubisoft stuff broke, so, like, you know, June of 2020, you know, we had... It was the last time we talked about Ubisoft in, like, not an abuse context. So, like, oh, Sands of Time remake, and then, like, a month later, oh, it's abuse. Did they ever bring back up BYO, Beyond Good and Evil? They've not brought it up in a long time. There's rumors there's a trailer ready to go today, but... Also, it feels weird that we have so many Prince of Persias happening in such close succession, right? That there have been 2 different side-scrolling combat Prince of Persias in the past 6 months. There's been 2 of them. Plus, there's another one still in development. It really feels like they've gone from doing nothing to it. Yeah, it feels like they went from nothing to, like, let's milk this fucking thing dry all at once. Isn't the French government still investigating the Beyond Good and Evil studio? I know that 5 executives, or former executives from there, back in February, were being investigated over legal claims, were, like, being taken to court over allegations of abuse. I don't know if there's any further investigation of that studio that's been going on. Too many messages. Oh, hey, it's that game that Native American native communities have a whole bunch of problems with this whole series and James Cameron, and those keep being ignored and have multiple times, like, stolen like actual cultural spiritual practices and presented them as fictional spiritual practices for the Na'vi. And made no effort to, you know, apologize for the fact that they're stealing spiritual practices from native communities and pretending that they're fictional spiritual practices. Shit like that. Whole bunch of bullshit. You know what? Let's talk about that a little bit. Let me find about that. Avatar. Native American controversy. Here we go. Why indigenous groups are boycotting Avatar: The Way of Water. In a tweet with over 45,000 likes, indigenous activist and graphic artist Ubisoft called on viewers to boycott the horrible and racist film, stating that it appropriated native and indigenous cultures in a harmful manner, urging people to show their support for marginalized communities by donating to Black and Indigenous relief funds and amplifying Indigenous voices instead of seeing the film. This all comes after offensive comments James Cameron made in 2010 resurfaced on social media. I felt like I was 130 years back in time watching what the Lakota Sioux might have been saying at a point when they were being pushed, and they were being killed, and they were being asked to displace, and they were being given some form of compensation. This was a driving force for me in the writing of Avatar. I couldn't help but think if they, the Lakota Sioux, had a time window, and they could see the future, and they could see the kids committing suicide at the highest rates in the nation because they were hopeless, they were a dead-end society, which is what was happening now, they might have fought a lot harder against colonialization. Yeah, no, James Cameron said if people could see... If Native Americans could have seen the future, maybe they'd have fought a little fucking harder not to be colonialized. And he said that when talking about the first Avatar. Like, his point was, I'm making a film that's about what if the Native Americans had fought a little fucking harder to not be fucking colonialized. What if I made a film about Native Americans, but I painted them blue, and this time they fight off the colonizers? Rather than not knowing how bad it's going to be and not fighting hard enough? James Cameron could give us a call. He could give me a call, or any number of organizations, institutes, and indigenous storytellers. Involve us. This is the difference between agency and representation. Blueface refers to the practice of redface. You've seen it in every high school, every college, or every professional team that has an Indian mascot. We've seen drunk fans donning red face paint and headdresses at Kansas City Chiefs games before it was banned. It's a textbook racial slur that Native people have been telling America about, and it falls on deaf ears. Having non-Indigenous people dress up in blue costumes to characterize their songs, dances, and language is an act of usurpation that we've seen from colonial culture throughout history. Yeah, it goes on to talk about the Na'vi's whole thing about their the connection with nature, the elemental universe. That is a Native American concept, Taku Shan Shan. We have a whole set of knowledge systems that have been passed down for over the ages. James Cameron apparently, like, just wholesale stole a bunch of, like, the whole belief system there and was like, nah, that's the Navi's thing. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, all while not hiring anyone from indigenous cultures. Exactly. Say nobody, I don't deny that, like, look, I can simultaneously acknowledge that ride at Disney where the thing feels like it's the lungs are breathing on the dragon between your legs, magical piece of design, while also going, native communities have made it pretty fucking clear, don't support Avatar, and I'm like, cool. I did not watch the second Avatar movie. I will not watch any future ones. I did not play the Avatar game. Once I was aware of quite how big a community of Native American activists there were who were like, yeah, no, it's bad, do not support it. I was like, cool. I have not supported anything Avatar since. Incompetent Hero, it's not that them, it's not the, sorry, I skimmed some of the article there. It's not that they painted them blue, it's that they did paint our skin while doing a bunch of native, like, very clearly we pulled from native cultures. It's the, we have painted our skin to make ourselves seem alien from the white humans we are, to other ourselves, and then gone and done a bunch of Native American things and painted them as literal alien behaviors, alien cultures. And it's like, oh, you painted your skin to know, like, okay, yeah, white man Jake Sully now has blue skin, and now he understands all of the alien practices. It's like, yeah, I see it. It's like, it's the, oh, you couldn't understand it while you had white skin, but now that you've changed your skin to blue, you can be one with nature and the animals and do all these spiritual rituals and things. Now that you are one of those alien people with different skin to us. Yeah, Fakest, in my defense, I hadn't seen the stuff about, I don't follow Avatar particularly much, so I hadn't seen the stuff until after I'd been to Disney, and then I came back and saw that stuff and was like, cool. Because, like, here's the thing, I went on that ride and was like, that ride was cool. Maybe I should watch the second Avatar film, and then Googled and then was like, oh, there's controversy. Guess I won't watch that film then. Oh yeah, no, he transforms himself. He uploads his mind into an alien body to go live among the savages. It's Pocahontas. The first Avatar is literally just Pocahontas. If John Smith, instead of just landing in America and like meeting Pocahontas, was like, what if I literally uploaded my brain into a Native American body and then met Pocahontas? It's literally just Pocahontas if the white guy had uploaded his brain into a Native American before meeting Pocahontas. So there you go. If you haven't seen Avatar, now you know. Oh yeah, also his human body is disabled, and that's why he agrees to go on the mission, is to get some escape and respite from being disabled. Weirdly ableist. Like, there's a whole big part of his incentive to stay a Na'vi long term is it's him accepting and go do his little colonialism mission to not be disabled anymore. It's why they select him to do it. They're like, well, yeah, he's got the most to gain from, helping us with this. So there you go. How far are we in? We're 40 minutes away, 2/3 of the way in. If it ends in 20 minutes, if that's correct. I've been vaguely keeping an eye on the subtitles. I don't think they've mentioned accessibility yet. If anyone else has been paying any attention to the subtitles and I've missed anything about accessibility, let me know and I'll, skim back and read it. I'm assuming this is Assassin's Creed they're building up to. So yeah, there you go. There's Avatar chat. Oh, Avatar. Yeah, Ubisoft got jealous of the Game Awards music stuff, I see. Yeah, well, I mean, Ubisoft is the only one I'm aware of that's doing an actual, in-person, in a big theater press conference like this. All the rest of them have either been green screen, home office, or on a closed stage. So I feel like they feel the need to do, the big on-stage musical performance. As they're like, well, if we're inviting everyone to be in the crowd, we've got to, fill out, pad out the time. And do, the big events that everyone's going to be excited about. Yeah, it seems like nothing's come up about accessibility. Diri, that was also part of it, I think. I don't remember that first film hugely well. The fact that I fucking remember his name is Jake Sully, I think is... I don't know how many people would be able to tell you a name of a character from Avatar. Apparently, I still remember Jake Sully for some reason. I genuinely don't remember. It could have been his brother, but I do remember he was disabled, and I do remember that there were fucking lines in that first film in which he explicitly talked about being excited to not be fucking disabled anymore. Unobtainium, of course. Everyone remembers unobtainium. The hardest mineral to find in the galaxy. Unobtainium. Impossible to get a hold of, Oh god, one sec. Fucking unobtainium. Wokium. Oh, we gotta go mine all the wokium. We just gotta displace the local native population, then we can obtain all the wokium we want. Naming the character Jake Sully is like naming a character white guy protagonist. I mean, it's not quite J.K. Rowling levels of character naming, but it's not far off. I must say, the only decent thing to have come out of people like talking about the kind of racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic naming conventions in the Harry Potter books is people sort of reclaiming things by coming up with their like, oh, if I was in a Harry Potter book, what really offensive, unsubtle name would Rowling have given me? I'd have been like Tisma Transy, you know, shit like that. I'm like, okay, there's some fun to be had there. Yeah, there are some real fucking racist as shit names in Harry Potter. So many of them are, I mean, like, yeah, don't even get me started on fucking Kingsley Shacklebolt. A lot of people have had very reasonable critiques of her naming choices. So Jake Sully, sure, generic McGenericman. Let's Google more Ubisoft stories. Who's got another favourite terrible Ubisoft thing? Who else wants to share more stories of Ubisoft harassment? I'm sure some of you in chat have got stories about Ubisoft not properly taking care of workers that we should be, you know, discussing. One sec. Yeah, no accessibility yet this year. Uh, Terror in the Twitch chat says, if I were a Harry Potter character, I would be Fatty Mixblood. Oh. I hate that that doesn't sound out of place. Yeah, sorry, we would, So yeah, where were we? What other stuff do we still need to talk about with regards to Ubisoft? Let me look up the Ubisoft of it all. Ubisoft allegations list. Come on, give me a list of just. No, that was the word lust. That is unfortunately involved in a lot of the allegations, but let's have a quick look. So here is a list of every Ubisoft employee who was outed for abuse. Warning, it's a long fucking list. Where are we going backwards in time? Okay, let's start from the bottom. We work backwards. Actually, fuck it, we'll just work from the top of the list. Editorial Vice President Maxime Belland resigned from Ubisoft after being suspended over allegations of assault and harassment. Ubisoft lead Michel Ancel, creator of Rayman and Beyond Good and Evil, has been accused of abusive workplace behaviour by French journalists less than a week after Ancel announced his retirement from game development. Funny one, that. A week before he was about to get accused by the media of pretty bad fucking sexual harassment, he decided to quit working on Beyond Good and Evil 2, his fucking baby, and instead go run a chicken farm in the woods, completely unrelated to the pending investigation. Is this the last conference this week? There's like 15 minutes of gameplay of Dragon Age The Veilguard tomorrow. And at some point this month, there is a Nintendo Direct. Maybe this week, maybe next week, maybe toward the end of the month, who knows. Anyway, continuing the list. Hughes Recall, manager of Ubisoft Singapore studio, was outed from his role as Skull and Bones director but not from the company, after a leadership audit. He was removed from his position following an internal investigation that uncovered multiple accusations of sexual harassment and demeaning behaviour. He was no longer allowed to be in charge of Skull and Bones, but he wasn't removed from Ubisoft the company. He was allowed to just be shuffled to a different department, but still keep working there after, Ubisoft's own internal investigation uncovered multiple accusations of sexual harassment and demeaning behaviour. Allegations of sexual and abusive harassment, blah blah blah. Let's find some more names. Where are the rest of the names? Andrienne Glinby, the product and brand manager for Ubisoft, was accused of sexual harassment and assault by several female employees. He'd been working for Ubisoft for over 8 years, worked on things like Assassin's Creed. The allegations against him are vast. Senior account executive Catherine Kate Johnson was the first to come forward, claiming that he groped and sexually assaulted her. I will avoid the... Okay, fuck it. No, he groped and raped her at a work-related event in 2014. Her claims have been backed by various figures in the industry, including Twitch ambassador Hannah Rutherford, who we know, who claims to have had similar experiences with Yimby. I know Hannah really well. I've been on, pub quiz stuff with her. She's lovely. She personally had fucking bad, shitty run-ins with the Ubisoft executive who was literally accused of raping another person within Ubisoft. Radders, we know, in the accessibility space, ran those accessibility panels I was on Twitch last summer, echoed a similar statement, claiming Jimby pressured her into sex. He invited me to Gamescom 2017 to see him, to be with him. Once we were there, he was publicly neutral towards me. We had sex. Immediately after Gamescom, he went cold and dropped me, made me feel insane for thinking we could be more. He used me for sex. I was an easy get. Gimby denied the allegations, particularly those levelled by Johnson. I'm writing to categorically and vehemently deny the allegation of rape levelled against me by Catherine Johnson. Look, I don't know what happened between them, but I know 2 of the people who were quoted who backed up the story are people I know personally very well, and I believe... I have no reason to doubt either Radders or Hannah, so I have no reason to doubt Johnson on that. Probably should have put a content warning, but this stream is what it fucking is. I'm not gonna shy away from acknowledging the severity of this shit is why I do this stream this way every year. Until this shit gets properly addressed, it is important to... Lamardia. Do you have a link to that article? It's on Screen Rant. It's called Every Ubisoft Employee Who Was... let me find the title. Every Ubisoft Employee Outed for Abuse So Far, by Screen Rant, is the one I'm currently reading from, which is a pretty good recap of all this shit. Let's see. Stone Chin, the Associate Director of Public Relations at Ubisoft, has also been called out for inappropriate behaviour, some extending far as back as a decade. There are multiple allegations, with the majority alluding to a long history of inappropriate behaviour, and that Chin had used his position to prey on younger female employees. Similarly, the Creations and Relations Manager at Logitech, Alex Money, has also been the subject of similar allegations online, accusing him of predatory behaviour. Community and Influencer Manager for Save the Children US, John Sylvester, supported the allegations against both Chin and Money. The Six Axis reports. Neither Chin nor Money has responded to the controversy. Even Assassin's Creed Valhalla's creative director Ashraf Ismail recently left his position with Ubisoft after several indiscretions came to light. On the 24th of June, Twitter user Denny Von Doom exposed several other Ubisoft employees for allegedly engaging in inappropriate behaviour or covering up for the actions of their co-workers. He claims to have spoken to employees from Ubimassive, Ubisoft Montreal, Ubisoft Toronto, Ubi Brazil, Ubi San Francisco, and even their North Carolina location. He shared a series of images featuring messages sent directly to him from former female employees claiming misconduct. In one of the messages, it alleges that Andrea Minico, the former creative director of Ubisoft Montreal, acted inappropriately on several occasions, including licking a woman's face at a party and trying to begin an altercation with another woman. Denny also claimed he had evidence to support the allegations against Jibinji. He also references Maxime Belland, the creative VP at Ubisoft Toronto. He claims he's talked to 4 different employees about Belland's behaviour, which allegedly includes both sexual harassment and drunken violence. One employee claims he went so far as to choke her. Social media user replied to Danny's thread in order to point out that Maxime Belland's wife was in human resources when the abuse incidents against him were reported. His wife was in HR at the time, so I don't imagine the victim had any hope of redress. Time to be accountable, Ubisoft. Stop protecting and enabling abusers. Not only was Maxine's wife in HR when the aforementioned physical assault took place, she eventually became the co-studio director with an official title of Associate Managing Director. We'll take a break for a second. We'll take a breather. Yeah. No, the use of the word indiscretions is a real fucking undersell, but, you know, yeah, real passive voice, I know. How do you go from HR to studio co-director? I don't know, maybe because the other co-director is your husband. You cover up enough of your husband's face-licking incidents. He goes, thank you for covering up that many times I licked an female employee's face. You can now share my job with me, and we'll be married co-directors, I fucking guess. Right. Got a couple more. The onset of allegations prompted more former Ubisoft employees to speak out. Twitter user Tiny Alina shared a long post explaining the harassment she experienced while working in one of Ubisoft's offices. She described the inappropriate attention she received from her team leader after earning a position within the company at age 20. She claims their relationship quickly went from professional to romantic, but that she felt uncomfortable and unsure what to do because of his seniority. He started to hold my hand in secret, touch me, and eventually it proceeded to kissing me, literally French kissing. He would stop the elevator when we were alone and kiss me. I was now so far deep in it all that I didn't know how to tell him that I didn't want that, and felt like I had no choice but to continue to humour him. She had a boyfriend at the time, who her team leader knew about, but her boss continued to try and pursue an inappropriate relationship with her, regardless. In a similar fashion, Twitter user Alana Matty, based in Toronto, shared her negative experiences working for Ubisoft. In a long thread, she claimed she worked on the studio's audio team, but had issues with the head of the department. She alleges her supervisor would profess his love for her, claim his wife was jealous of them, and would forbid her from talking to co-workers. Perhaps even more shocking, she claims the HR department did little to help improve the situation, leading her to eventually quit. In response, HR told me to stay home for my 2 weeks if it wasn't a safe environment, but tried to convince me not to leave the studio. They offered to move me to another project. The problem was I knew as long as he was there, I wouldn't be welcome, so I declined. There you go. There's some updates. There's some reminders. Yeah, Saint Nobody, well put. Face licking is stock over-the-top creepiness for movie villains. Like, I struggle to imagine doing that in reality and not realizing, like, maybe I fucked up. And yeah, several of the people mentioned in this, several of the people I've named today in this discussion, still have jobs at Ubisoft. Several of these people still have jobs at Ubisoft. Several of these people got moved to different parts of the company or different departments, but still have jobs at Ubisoft. Hence, some of them, only now in 2024, starting to face criminal investigations, but like, yeah. And Ubisoft continues to just want to pretend it didn't happen, and to pretend that everything's okay. But again, as we said at the start of the stream, routinely when, employee surveys are done, they're like, nah, it doesn't feel any better. It feels like the problems just moved to different people, but I still don't feel safe here. So yeah, there you go. Are we finished? Or are they keeping going? I don't this looks like it could be like an ending animation. Welcome to subscription. No, thank you. Wait, I'm not supporting your, even if I wasn't like not playing Ubisoft games, I wouldn't support your subscription service because it's trying to phase out physical media. Yeah, no, Ubisoft has had a hiring problem for a while now. It is what look, this is anecdotal, but I know people who work at various parts of Ubisoft who have basically said crunch has gotten way worse because they can't find new people to hire. New people are trying to get, like, the reputation is bad enough they don't want to work at Ubisoft. So the people who are still there are just getting crunched. Like, they're not being offered, like, a pathway to management or like progression. They're just being worked harder to get more out of them. Okay, it looks like we're nearly done. It might be a one last thing, but I suspect there's going to be no accessibility discussion, so like one moment. Cool. I won't be doing the usual Twitch stream tonight that I'd be doing from 10 till midnight UK, just because I got control on access to go record, but you've had plenty of streaming from me over the last few days. I'll be back on Wednesday and Friday doing my normal streams. Fakis says, at the beginning of this stream, I was like, is this really worse than Activision Blizzard? But this is, like, rot worse than I've seen at anything outside of the 1950s. Yeah, it's why... It's why I keep bringing Ubisoft up. I'm like, I know people who work at Ubisoft who are like, it hadn't... I know other people who work at Ubisoft, and in their specific regional studios, things feel better. But there are also regional studios where people work where they're like, no, it's still the same and nothing got fixed. Yeah, okay, we're done. There we go. I'm off. Have a good one, everyone. Have a nice rest of your day. I'll be back streaming as well. I was gonna say I'll be back streaming as usual on Wednesday. I'll be streaming tomorrow for the Dragon Age gameplay reveal, and that'll be more positive. I'm excited. You saw me at Xbox. I'm excited to talk about Dragon Age, so we'll see Dragon Age soon. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed. Goodbye.